I think it's really powerful and empowering for others to hear what we've been through. And so, Satyan, I'd love just to hear about your story, about the you that you were before the you that you are now.
Well, I think the divine essence of who I am is always the same and always will be. Yet the personality and our structures are always evolving. That's sort of the way I hold it. But I started out, I'm East Indian, born in Uganda, Africa, raised in Canada most of my life, to really wonderful traditional East Indian parents. And I grew up in that traditional model. And as a young boy, I was very interested in spirituality, the search for truth, seeking for what is truth, what is the meaning of life. That started in me quite early when I was around 10. I felt disillusioned with the world. I didn't have words for it as a youngster, but that's what was going on inside. And that led me to, as I was watching TV, I saw kung fu shows, the David Carradine famous TV show, Kung Fu, and also Bruce Lee. And when I saw that, I had a deep movement inside. I knew that that was my path. I knew that was my history on some level. I knew that that was my path. And so I pursued that. And I was blessed to find a kung fu master and his disciples who were very on the path of consciousness and on the path of spiritual warriorship, not the traditional idea of war for the purpose of harm, but to become a spiritual warrior for the purpose of higher purpose and service and betterment of self and society. So that's been my path now for about 45 years. And that led me to many schools. When I was about 17, my teacher said, now that you've been learning lots about the art of harm, martial arts, the art of war, you need to also learn the art of healing, how to serve. And so that led me on a path of deep healing. I started learning about shiatsu, acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, and that has now bloomed to my study over the last 40 years of about 30 different models of psycho-spiritual healing and development. Everything from traditional psychotherapy, which I'm trained in, all the way to esoteric forms of spiritual healing. And I've taken all that body of work, and I saw a deep need for enlightenment and awakening and consciousness in the world of business. I see big business especially, is responsible for creating a lot of harm on this planet and potentially the end of our biosphere unless we have enlightenment and higher consciousness in the realms of how we run business. So that's been my focus and is my focus. I work with business leaders, CEOs, founders, executive teams of companies that are here for some positive impact. And I help them get into the groove, get them polished up, and helping them cross the finish line with potency.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you, like me, your journey started at a very young age. I was around 13 where I started asking questions and being like, who am I? What is this? Why am I here? And like you, I imagine, felt very disillusioned with what I was perceiving through my senses, with what I was being told life was supposed to be like. Can you speak? I know it was a while ago now, but can you speak to that disillusionment? Because I feel like so many people are still in that place and maybe not even aware that they're in that place. So
Right.
so how did you come to this awareness at such a young age, and then how did you have the courage to follow the path that has led you to where you are now?
Yeah. So, I think many of us have this, especially those who are drawn to this circle and to be part of this group that you've been creating and bringing together. We're drawn here because my teacher used this term, we're fringe dwellers. And he said a fringe dweller is someone who's one foot is in the temporal, this earthly world, and another one is in a wider world, another dimension, a spiritual dimension of being. And not everyone is like that. We can call them mavericks, spiritual mavericks. You're definitely one of them. I'm one of them. By the nature of everyone in this circle, they probably have that. And so for me, it was not only, it was an acceptance. The first thing I had to accept was I didn't fit the mold of a traditional Indian boy, traditional North American upbringing, do this, go to school, get a job, go to get a university, get these accolades, get this type of designation, then work and all of that. Although my family, and I honor everyone on those paths, that's beautiful for them. But for me, I realized if I go down that path, I would be selling my soul out. I'd be selling my soul out to what my parents wanted, my culture had expectations of me, society had expectations, and I just knew in my gut I wouldn't be soulfully happy. I wouldn't be free. I might fit into the conventions and get the kudos and the accolades from the conventional realm, but it wasn't my soul's calling. And so I had to make a tough decision. You know, I told my parents I really want to get into Kung Fu. I want to make that a way of life. I want to teach. I want to have a school. And they didn't know what to make of it. But the beginning part of my life, that part when I was a teenager, was really challenging to say, listen, this is my path. I'm going to become a Kung Fu teacher. I don't care how it's going to happen. I'm going to make my way to it. So there was this almost, not bravado, I would say a absolute dedication to what was inside of my spirit and trusting that I would find success, I would find value, I would make a difference, I would have a life of fulfillment if I just followed my dharma, as we call it now, right? Our path. And so that's my encouragement to everyone listening. There are so many great carrots on the path of life that are dangling. Do this, achieve that. Do this, achieve that. But are those the carrots you want to be following, or is there a deeper calling? And so I had to take the time to listen and trust and surrender any other options to the only option, which was to follow this burning desire, this quest for truth. And it's paid off big time.
Mm. That's so beautiful, man. And thank you for sharing. Um, you mentioned expectations, those external expectations, and kind of, I sometimes jokingly, when you ask somebody how they're doing, and they say living the dream, and my response always is it your dream or is it somebody else's dream? And it's like, because of those external expectations, I think so many of us end up living a life designed for somebody else. We're living due to the expectations of parents, or spousal, or even just societal roles of, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm, how I'm supposed to show up in my life. And so what would you share with somebody who's in that space of, what, I'm kind of stuck in this role, showing up as this
Yes,
person or this identity, because everybody else around me is expecting that.
that is the biggest one. In my Indian culture, it's very collective. I remember going to India. My cousin is she's looking for a necklace, jewelry, and the whole family will go to the jewelry store and go 3, 4 times. The whole family, they all decide together whether this is going to be the perfect jewelry. And I can't even imagine that growing up in the West. And
Wow.
yet it's such an intrinsic part of my culture, this collectivism. Now, what I have to say about that is the collectivism and our human desire and need to fit in, to be accepted by our tribe, is very powerful. It's
Mhm.
extremely powerful because it's mammalian. If we don't fit into the crowd, if we're not accepted by our tribe, in the old days, we would be on our own and probably left to die and in the cold without food. We're
Mhm.
not in that reality now. That's a mammalian leftover imprint. We're in a place now where our autonomous sovereignty, the ability to actually choose, is the first time, maybe in the last 50 years, in the world's history, humankind's history, a couple of 100,000 years, it's the first time where we can actually thrive without the momentum of the tribal influence. We can actually grow into our own unique, sovereign, choiceful being. What is our dharma, our path? So I just want us, first of all, to get that. That might have been way harder in the earlier generations to do that.
Mhm.
But now is actually the optimal time to reassess and say, as you shared, is that my dream? Was that my path that I really took on? Or have I taken on someone else's path? Now, if you realize and you get right down to it and you get darn honest and you go, no, this isn't. Then this is the crucial, this is the sacred moment. This is the moment where you can go, is the rest of my life worth staying on this track? Because it's knowable. It's what's known. The ego likes what's known and what's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But if we take the path of spirit and freedom, we're not going to know much at all. We're going to be exhilarated. We're going to be joyful. We're going to be in a mystery. We might be at our edges like we've never discovered before. But I need to let us know, if we don't, we're dead anyways. Even though our bodies might die when we're 80, 90, our soul will have retracted and died because it's living the life of somebody else's dream.
Mm-hmm.
How do we move through it? You've got to find the resolve, the gumption, the commitment to go, okay, I'm going to take 3 years, not 3 days, 3 hours, 3 minutes. I'm going to take 3 years to extricate myself from the momentum of all that. I don't have to make that sudden jump. Some people do. Some people go, enough, I'm packing it all up. I'm selling everything. You can do that. That's a powerful way too. And I'm going to go to some tropical island or Costa Rica or travel the world and find my path. Or you can take a step-by-step approach where you remove yourself from all the, I'm really caught up in that as a habit. I do that every Tuesday night. I do this every weekend. I do this for meals every day. These are my common friends. Whatever you find is habitual, step away, step away, step away. Then a new energy emerges, and it's the energy of your soul's signature. Then the energy of you gets online because it's offline when it's someone else's life. It comes back online, and now the navigation system that's already inherent, when that comes online, you might not see far in front of you, but you can see the next step, and it always brings rewards. So in essence, we need the gumption, the courage to go against the status quo that we've readily adopted, and not blame the status quo. And say, I've readily been volitionally involved in this status quo. Now I withdraw from this system of the status quo, and I carve my path. Just by doing that, within the first few weeks, a gust of inner energy will come up within you, and be open to magic and potentials and portals you can't even imagine. But you have to, we have to, I have to, we all have to make that concerted courage to not look back and go into and constantly check the rear view mirror if we did the right thing.
Yeah, beautifully said. And you alluded to it a little bit, the kind of the struggles and the obstacles that I imagine everyone, including yourself, including myself, have had to go through to get to, this point in our lives. Do you have any that kind of stand out for you of like, anything that you really had to overcome and what you did in that moment to actually overcome it?
Well, I remember at around 17, I was very much already deeply immersed in Kung Fu as a disciple, apprentice in that dimension. And then my master said, look, it's time for you to learn healing arts too. And I was a very truant school, not Kung Fu, but regular school. I didn't like it at all. I didn't fit in the academic expectations. I was more of a kinesthetic learner and self-studier. Today, I would probably be diagnosed with ADHD, using those labels and such. But what happened was I told my parents, listen, I really want to do Kung Fu. And my dad especially was like, what about this? You're crazy and won't make any money off it, this and this. So the pivotal moment for me was I had to stand and say, no, Dad, I am going to be successful at this. It might not look like your idea of success. It might not look like all our family's idea of success, but I'm going to be successful in what I do. I didn't even know how. And I said it in a trembling way with my dad. And it was very clear. I was blessed early on to know I don't want to make my dad proud, because if I'm trying to make my dad proud, I'm still unconsciously twisting my behaviors, my intentions to make dad or mom or society proud. I said, Mom, Dad, and I got real with them. I says, I don't think I can make you proud in the way you want. All I can do is become proud of who I am and what I'm going to do for myself and what I feel is right. And they didn't know what to make of it. I followed my path. And then years later, they joined me. Years later, my whole family said, wow, you've been living this path. And then my mother, my father, my brother, younger brother, I only have one younger brother, they all hopped on with me. They all came to spiritual adventure tours. This is 20, 25 years later, where they said, okay, wow, you've achieved something. What are you doing? Can we come with you to one of our, I hold these spiritual adventure tours. They came with me to the heart of Peru, the heart of the Amazon, and partook in ayahuasca ceremonies, traditional healing ceremonies. And all of them now are on a path of consciousness. And I am like, I couldn't imagine that 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna from Hinduism, near the end of the Bhagavad Gita, the sacred text of a Bible type of Indian literature, it says it's better, Krishna says to Arjuna, it's better that a man does his dharma, his path, even if he's not super successful at it, than pick up the path of someone else and be super successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
That really landed for me. Be true unto yourself.
Mm.
The rewards are just that in itself, not what it can get you to be walking your own path. Walking your own path against the status quo, against the need and desire for approval and acceptance, is in itself the ultimate victory of yourself over illusion. That will open the door for everything else.
So powerful, brother. So powerful. And I love what you said to your dad, that, and your parents, that you don't think you can make them proud in the way that they would want. That's in and of itself, that just speaks volumes, right? Because you're right. And I've never really thought about it like this. If I'm still trying to make my parents proud in the way that they would expect, because maybe they're not more averse to this way, then just by default, I'm almost, kind of playing into that old paradigm, that old way of thinking. So that's really, really profound. That really, really landed for me. I want to ask just one more question here. So, if you had any words of wisdom that would maybe go against conventional wisdom or some myths out there, what would that be?
A very potent one for me, which is counter-conventional to the human potential movements, many of them, not all of them, is the principle of massive action equals massive results. It's true. If you do massive action, you'll get massive results, and you'll probably have massive burnout and massive consequences that are not talked about after the seminar, after the massive. Why? Because it's not sustainable for our being. Someone might be a rock star with super high energy, like a Robbins, and be able to do that for years on end. But we're not all cut out like that. Everyone is unique. Everyone has our own natural flow and rhythm. I think it's valuable to find your own natural flow and rhythm and not aim to emulate others. So the idea of modeling other people's success, my counter to that is if you model other people's success, yes, you'll get those type of successes, but you're contorting your body, mind, spirit to take on an identity or personality type that's not your depth? What if you're more of a silent, deep transmitter of truth? It's not going to
Mm,
work for you to be motivational. What if you're motivational and inspiring, but it's not going to work out for you to hold, 3-day silent retreats? It's not your energy. You got to
mhm,
find your signature energy pattern. And the other thing counter is the idea of go for that dream. Don't be ceaseless. Be unrelenting about your vision to achieve it. Where I'm at now is I hold that all with lowered importance. Any excess importance that we attribute to any goal, vision, mission, although altruistic, although very valuable, although maybe very potent and good for self and the world, the attribution of excessive importance to it pushes it away. It creates a counterbalancing force, which makes it so you're always chasing, you're struggling. And so struggle is effort laced with negative emotion. Effort is needed, but not struggle. Struggle is the extra that we put on, the vehemency, the nobility, the I am important because I'm struggling. People gain a lot of value and meaning from struggle. It's a
mhm,
false energy. It's a false energy. And so what I like to do is instead of be absolutely committed to the outcome of a goal, which I am, just lower the importance around it, open up spaciousness, and be willing for that not to work out. The paradox is the lessening of importance makes you magnetic to the very thing that you're desiring. The increasing of importance makes you repelling of the very thing that you're wanting. It's a
mm,
paradoxical reframing and
mhm,
reattunement. But if you can get it right, it's incredible. It's like
mhm.
it turns us, lowering importance makes us go from mule energy, hardworking, pushing, driving, to magician, the sage.
Mm. So maybe do you have two other kind of points on how one would do that? Like
Yeah.
how do you desire something but then be totally detached from when or even if it shows up?
This is the timeless ancient question, and really the dichotomy between the West and the East forms of attainment, right? One
Mhm,
is be and receive, and the other one is do and get and gain. Both are
mhm,
valid. Both have their intrinsic powers. Not one is more important than the other. Just in general, I imagine, those uh, an amplifier. An amplifier has the treble, has a bass. If you got a more higher end one, it might have a mid range. If you got a super
yep,
fancy one, it's got a lot of equalizers on it. But if we were just to boil it down into bass and treble, as an example,
mhm,
I look at importance as the base.
okay,
Turn the so I actually visualize, okay, I'm wanting this goal of X I want to achieve, whatever it is. Could be a personal goal, could be a professional goal. I feel it, I see it, I want it. And then I feel for my how much I want it. Is it on a scale of 8 to 10? 7 out of 10, I really want it. I really desire it. Could be relationship, could be finances, could be health, whatever it is, whatever dimensions. I gauge myself, okay, I really want that 8 out of 10. Once I recognize that, then internally I imagine I've got a dial on the base, and that's my importance, my vehemency, my yang energy on it, and I turn it right down. And whenever I see it spiking again, turn it down. When I see it spiking coming up again, I turn it down. But then, parallel with the lowering of importance is impeccable execution. We tend to, as we lower importance on things, be more slipshotty. We don't cross the T's, dot the I's as cleanly because we don't have much importance on it. But if we can remove or lower the importance, not make it all go away, lower the importance, but then raise the impeccability in detail, execution, that's a magic formula. Okay. The other piece is this: if you still can't lower the importance, Imagine, let's say, for example, you want a relationship of your dreams and it's in your heart burning, or you want to make, you have an idea of a business that you want to grow and it's burning, or a financial goal of X amount of dollars that you want to achieve, whatever it is. If you really feel filled with that energy to achieve it, and you know, oh my God, this is like 7 or above in terms of my importance, and you're trying to tone down, cool off the importance, another way to do it, this is counterintuitive, is see the project fail. Go down one of the pathways, one of the timelines of infinity, and see that not working out, and coming to a close, not working out, and then feel what that's like if it doesn't work out. What will happen is you'll recognize, I'm still here, I still have creativity, I still got a full life, but the vehemency of importance will be reduced. Now go ahead, do the actions that are needed to achieve that goal, but from intention, not desire. Desire has importance, intention has clarity of follow through.